feedback instantly when we don't have everything plugged in just perfectly. And the other thing is we don't edit. So that's what the YouTube kind of gives us the pressure of, you got to get it right the first time because we're not editing this because somebody's going to get to see it unedited anyway. Mm-hmm. So we might as well just try to get it right the first time. All right.
There we go.
Looks like we're good to go on sound.
Yep. Thank you, everybody, for letting us know about that because that's something I would have missed. But I know the exact buttons in that case. Good old OBS running through that and everything. All right. Like I said, then after we do all the intros and what you're drinking stuff, probably have you introduce yourself a bit, and then, like Sherwin said, walk through kind of the big headlines with manager change, Almiron being sold. I wanted to talk about the new playoff format a bit, and then I think we have a few kind of crossover questions and thoughts with NASCAR, with Nashville. And their soccer club and the kind of joined at the hip with that whole Fairground Speedway site, and then that's it. And Super Bowl weekend in Atlanta. Maybe talk about it, close out with that, and we'll let you go. How's that sound?
Yeah, my dad's a Patriots fan, so it's an exciting Super Bowl for him. I probably shouldn't tell Atlanta fans that though.
No, it's fine.
Judge me.
Everybody's got to be a fan of something, and most people, as it turns out, unlike us, are not from Atlanta.
Yeah. I don't hold any ill will toward the Patriots for that whole thing. That was not their undoing of us. That was our
undoing of ourselves.
That was our problem.
Yeah.
So, anyway. All right. Let me make sure I've got everything set up, and that's looking good. Yeah,
so
ready to roll.
Brittany, it was hard to kind of tell what exactly you're up to now. I know I've seen you in a couple of different places, so that's why we're going to kind of open with, tell us what you're doing, because we know you're not on the sidelines anymore, and we're not, so you just tell us what it is you're up to, and then everybody will know.
All righty. Sounds good.
Cool. Well, like I said, we may go out on you for about 30 seconds to a minute here. You'll hear us hooting and hollering probably, and definitely we'll hear us bring you onto the show. In the meantime, we will be able to hear you. So if you're going, guys, I can't hear you, we'll be able to hear that, and that'll be on the podcast because, like Sherwin said, I at this point I don't even have the ability to edit anymore. So just hang with us, and we'll be right back to you right after I say we're recording. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, y'all, let's do this. We are recording now. Welcome, y'all! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 180. It's Tuesday, January 29th, 2019. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace. I'm in the PTM Podcast studio with Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
This feels like, it's not, it doesn't have to feel like it. It is round two. This is our second podcast of the day.
It is. Yep. We'll talk about that in a second. Before we do, y'all know what the deal is. This podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. Go to patreon.com/PTM. Join the What You Drink Club for as little as $1 a month. Get that free koozie and some stickers. The best part is every cent in 2019. Once again, we're donating to sponsoring drivers. So join the PTM posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. This week's show is brought to you by our official sponsors at the $5 and up per month level. That's Laura Henshaw, Aaron Bearden, Robert Keplinger, Comey McClay, Mary Kevin, Ryan Kiefer, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, Brandon Crowell, Kathleen McDonald, Stacey Wright, Brandon Carl, Billy Workman, Rika Porter, Jump Bob, Les Miller, Tommy Witt, Julie Bosley, John Pearson, Ed Greer III, Yunker Motorsports, Jason Rudd, David Mullins, Joe Knoll, Patrick Johnson, Brett Morris, and Gail Delaney. Oh, and did I put Julie Bosley? Yeah, I put Julie Bosley in there. Had to make sure I got everybody.
Always got to get Julie in there.
Yep. Had to make sure. So, Sherwin, we've got a little bit of a different episode tonight for everybody.
Well, yeah, in the off season, y'all know we like to mix in things that are a little bit different. We did the show with Georgia Henneberry and talking about the Chili Bowl and all that fun stuff.
Yep.
And coming off championship season
right,
for the Atlanta United Football Club. We've got somebody very special on the line today to talk about Atlanta and Atlanta soccer.
That's right, and she's here in Atlanta. Sherwin, maybe we should talk about the fact that both of us are sporting the Rico 97 hat with the Tennessee waterfall.
Oh, yeah, with the big old – yeah, we got the mullet hats on.
Mullet hats from Rico Abreu, and apparently he is sporting one that is, it looks better than this.
I think it makes these hats look like child's play.
Yeah,
like his actual one.
Yeah, I need a beard. I need to grow out the beard in order to do it. I've got
mine's too dark. It doesn't really match the hair color as well. As
it looks pretty. But that said, let's go ahead and welcome on our guest. Welcome to the show. A reporter with BN Sports USA. She's done sideline reporting for Atlanta United. And host work with Fox Sports South. You can find her on Twitter at Brittany M. Arnold. It's Brittany Arnold. Brittany, what's happening?
Hi, guys. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks for being on. We are super excited to have you on. Like we said, we're deep into the NASCAR offseason, and it's like, well, we've exhausted the topics lately, and me and Sherwin are ready to talk about something that we just both love, and hopefully some folks will get something out of it too.
Well, you couldn't have picked a better day because we got some big news for Atlanta United today, so we'll talk about that. And listen, it's always a great time to talk about Atlanta United, especially when you're here in the city. I think these fans never get enough of the team.
Are you staying warm today? The city pretty much shut down, even though it was like 40 during the middle of the day. But it's supposed to get
it's pretty cold out there now.
Cold, yeah, it's a little crazy. Are you any crazy plans on staying warm? We got the fireplace here, but that's about it.
I'm not going to lie. I was disappointed we didn't get any snow today. Like, all the schools were closed, and it was like this anticipation for when you wake up and there's going to be a ton of – and there was like nothing. Here in Marietta, it was like nothing happened. It was like 34, an average winter – for me, winter day when I feel like I'm from Florida, so I'm not used to the winter. But now that I've lived here a couple of years, I am. And I'm like, man, this is disappointing. My brother lives in Chicago, and he's got negative 60 coming his way tomorrow. I'm like, now that's a shutdown for a city, not 33.
Yeah, well, and we were just on the phone with somebody from Michigan earlier, about 3 hours ago, and they're having a big shutdown, too, for the same reason, because of the cold. And this is how Atlanta works, Brittany, is we have a big problem, and then for some sort of headwind amount of years, they're really cautious about how they manage potential weather issues that involve below freezing temperatures. But the next time that we actually get a real big snow, they'll blow it off, and it'll be a huge problem again.
Yeah,
that's just kind of how it works around here.
Were you here for Snowmageddon 2015?
2013.
I wasn't. I moved here just before the first season for Atlanta United, so I know I was not here for that, but I heard all about it, and I heard everything was shut down for hours and hours, and it was just lots of fun to be here during that time.
It was a 30-year snow, as it turns out.
And the SNL skit, all you got to do is look that up, and it's hilarious. There's some guy that's talking like Colonel Sanders or something, and talking about how awful it was and how, oh my Lord, there was an inch of snow, and he kept calling it the
worst inch of snow.
Yeah, the devil's dandruff, and what was one of the?
Oh my God, that is so funny. I'm gonna have to look it up.
It was what was one of them? It was like the Cincinnati confetti or something like that. I mean, he just kept coming up with words for snow that were great. But right before we get talking about Atlanta United and soccer, Brittany, we always start the show off the same way. What are you drinking on tonight?
I am drinking water. I actually don't drink alcohol. Surprisingly, I don't. So water is my beverage of choice.
Water is the most common beverage on the PETM Racing podcast, as it turns out.
Yep. As much as I'd like to say that I don't drink alcohol, I do. So it would probably be way better for me in a lot of ways. But, Sherwin, what do we have tonight?
Well, over here on the beer side, we've got this Stone beer that really caught my eye called the Scorpion Bowl IPA. I thought, well, that sort of kind of fits the whole Super Bowl mentality.
That's nice, a little spicy.
So we got that. Yeah, a little spice to it. And then I've got I brought a bottle of Fiddler bourbon that's from in town. Well, actually, it's from in town, and it's blended with some products from Indiana, but it is an Atlanta-based product from Unison, or ASW, as it were, is the parent company, and it's pretty tasty.
Awesome. So I just got a haircut yesterday, right? And I mean, it's like,
but then your hair grew out.
Yeah, it's all buzzed down usually. And now wearing this thing, I mean, it is an absolute. It's awful to have to and I have so much respect, Brittany, for for women and folks who have long hair to have to deal with this on a constant basis. I don't know if I could do it.
It's warm.
Yeah, it is warm. That helps.
It's kind of nice on the back of the neck there.
Yeah. So. Brittany, why don't we have you introduce yourself to the PETM posse and let everybody know where you're at, what you're doing, and what's going on.
Alrighty. Well, I am. So I basically am a soccer sideline reporter and host. I started my career in Miami. I am originally from Chicago, but I pretty much grew up in South Florida. So I'm basically a South Florida girl. And yeah, I started my career in Miami working for beIN Sports, and there I sort of, did it all, worked my way up, producer, all that stuff, onto being a host and that sort of stuff on air. And I was there for 4 years. And then, I covered international soccer, leagues like Serie A and La Liga and, Liga in France. So, covered all sorts of international soccer there, and I also covered all the sports. Actually, we did, tennis and rugby and all sorts of things. And then after beIN, I accepted the job with Atlanta United in their inaugural season, and I moved out to Atlanta to cover them as both their host, as you mentioned, for Fox Sports South, and I also worked for the team. I did a lot of hosting events for them, and there was just so much going on in the inaugural season. So it was just one of those fast years. It went by really fast. And then now I do a lot of freelance stuff now. I'm still here in Atlanta. I am sort of the Atlanta United expert for 11 Alive. They bring me on during the season to talk Atlanta United. And yeah, I'm just staying in the mix of soccer, and that seems to be where my career's led me and where I'm going to stay for as long as it'll have me.
A few weeks ago, we had Jeff Striegel on the show. He is the voice of NASCAR. And folks who have listened to NASCAR races on the radio, as soon as he starts talking, you know exactly who he is. But we talked to him for a long time about calling the races and about talking on the radio and stuff. This is we keep saying it to you, this is a hobby for me and Sherwin that we started just because we were sitting around talking about NASCAR and said, hey, why don't we start recording ourselves doing that? And it was, I believe the word that I used with Jeff Striegel, that our first episode was garbage and had no idea how to keep the right cadence, how to fill all the dead space, how to keep talking, how to keep saying stuff. Was this something for you that came natural, or was this something that you had to practice on quite a bit? Were there times where you're going, I'm supposed to say something, I'm not sure what I'm doing, I'll just run my mouth or something?
So I wish I had some interesting story. I feel like a lot of people in my industry have this really interesting, unique story. And unfortunately, I don't. When I was in college, I went to school in Chicago, and I studied broadcast journalism, and I really always wanted to write. I wanted to be sort of if there's any women listening, the Carrie Bradshaw of a Sports Illustrated. I wanted to be this beat writer for Sports Illustrated. And as I got closer to graduating, it was sort of magazines and newspapers were just on the verge of dying. So I took a broadcasting class, and one of my professors was like, hey, you're really sort of natural. You kind of have this way on camera. I think you should think about doing broadcast. And I was like, no. I want to write. I'm a writer. That's what I want to do. And I worked for the television network there I covered the basketball team at Loyola and the soccer team at Loyola. And I did a little bit of writing and a little bit of on air. And And honestly, the rest is history. I kind of just year after year, it's one of those industries where practice makes perfect, and the more you do it, the better you become and the more comfortable you become. But I'm definitely not one of those people that, the camera goes on and I feel like this sort of pressure. I kind of just see it as something where, you're talking to an audience just like I'm talking to you guys now, and I don't really feel any sort of pressure in front of a camera. I mean, I see it as something, for me, it's just something very, very normal. No pressure there.
That's great. You had mentioned, or you had said, I don't know if any women are listening to the show. Me and Sherwin have found that I would say about half of our listeners are women. It's actually very interesting to see the interest in, our podcast, but really in the sport, that it is maybe a bit more diverse than you might see on the outset. But we have a lot of women that listen to the show, and I think they very much appreciate hearing that from you. One thing that we've seen, obviously in Atlanta, is this explosive growth in soccer, and especially the community was ripe for it. Arthur Blank made a bet that has set every record of attendance that's ever been made. Tell us from your perspective what you're seeing, not just in Atlanta, because again, when we see it like this, I mean, it's the growth is obviously just exponential because we didn't have a team 3 years ago. But now across the country and everywhere, it feels like it is gaining a lot of traction. Sherwin and I have talked about on the show that it's a type of sport that the audience growing up right now, one of the complaints with NASCAR, for example, is 500 miles. It takes 4.5, 5 hours sometimes. And people are losing interest in that type of thing. Soccer is sort of more of a condensed sort of sport, and people are seeing how I don't know how much fun can be had in that sort of packed amount of time. So tell us your perspective though too on what you're seeing in the growth of the sport.
Yeah, I mean it's growing immensely. I sort of consider myself like the black sheep of the soccer world because I grew up very Americanized. My dad's from New England, so he's a Bruins fan, a Patriots fan, and a Red Sox fan, and to just the max. So I grew up, surrounded by probably every other sport except soccer, and I always grew up watching, if the World Cup was on, or a big game was on that Saturday or that Sunday, I would tune in, but it just wasn't something that I was surrounded with. Like a lot of the people that cover soccer either played the sport professionally or at an intermediate level, or, they have some sort of ties to the sport, something they've watched their whole lives. So when I went into soccer, one of my cousins played for the U.S. men's national team a long time ago. And he played throughout what, MLS and the leagues were back in the day. But it was definitely something that I had no taking to. I never watched Major League Soccer. It wasn't something that I followed. So when I worked at BN, I was covering international soccer. And it was something like I had never seen before. Like when you watch like an Italian derby, and these are matches that have been going on for generations and hundreds of years. And you see people lighting each other on fire in the stadium over because they're from a tiny town in Italy and they're from another tiny town in Italy, and they just don't like each other because their grandparents didn't like each other, right? So that tradition of soccer in Europe is something that it cannot be matched, right? And it's in England, and it's in all these places that have just had soccer for so long developing, and it's like a religion to them. So when I was going to take the job with Atlanta United, I wasn't sure what to expect because I had covered international soccer for so long, and I had been to one Major League Soccer game, and in Miami where I was living, it was like the Fusion. It wasn't like, it wasn't anything like Atlanta United. So coming into it, I was like, okay, this is an opportunity, a new opportunity, but what is it going to be like? I I don't hear people amongst myself, amongst my peers, like people, my friends, nobody talks about Major League Soccer, right? We talk about the World Cup if it's happening, the U.S. men's national team, the women's team, but you don't really hear a lot of Major League Soccer talk. And when Atlanta United came into the league, it was literally like nothing I had ever seen before. And when I say that, I mean anything here in the U.S. And I was almost comparing it in a way to like, well, this is bringing as many fans as like it does in Spain. And these guys are playing at the same caliber, as, guys, in lower clubs in Europe. I mean, this is just something that's bizarre to have in Major League Soccer. And when we would travel for games with the team, you could see the difference. If we go to a different stadium and there's maybe 10,000 fans filling, and then you come home to Atlanta United's games and you're filling, like you said, whether it's 35 or 40 or they open it up and it's 75 or more. I mean, it's something that is so unique to the league, and it's a great, model for other teams coming in to follow, but I don't really know if it's ever going to be replicated.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Well, won't be replicated is something that is that's interesting. That it shows the demand that was here and was seen by whether Arthur Blank was the initiator of all that, but he's certainly the one with the wallet making it all happen and believed in it,
right?
And totally deserves the spoils of the victories. One thing that you had mentioned is a good segue actually into some news that just happened is Newcastle signing Miguel Almiron to transfer for, it sounded like, Sherwin, £20 million, right?
Yeah, $27 million transfer fee.
Holy mackerel.
Largest in MLS history.
Yeah. Now, Almiron was not shy about saying that that's what he wanted to do, was go play in Europe.
And Atlanta United, in their own regards, were not shy about the fact that they were shopping him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
right.
What does that mean for Atlanta United? I mean, if that's a $27 million deal, that's a lot of money in the pockets. Losing Almiron is a big loss too. What does that mean for the team?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that even in the first season, I had covered Tata Martino when I was at BN when he was coaching Barcelona. And the whole dynamic of the first year with this team was to bring in these young European players or these South American players and make them, develop them so that they could go to Europe, right? Because at the end of the day, the Atlanta United fan base is phenomenal. It cannot be replicated. These fans are what make this organization so great. Players are going to come and go, and it's hard to face that as a fan because you never want it, right? I even remember in the inaugural season, even though I wasn't, technically a fan, as I'm air quoting myself, I was a fan of the team, even though I worked for them and it was my job. It was contagious. You couldn't help but be a fan if you were around it. And it's hard to see players come and go, but we knew that this was going to happen, and it's going to continue to happen. These young guys are coming here to develop, to learn, to grow, and then to go to Europe, because ultimately every soccer player's goal is to play in Europe. And you have players like Joseph Martinez who will say, I'm content in Atlanta, I'm happy in Atlanta, I'm not going anywhere, but he's already played in Europe. So he's had the experience of playing in Italy, and he already knows what that's like. But usually players that aren't homegrown guys, like an Andrew Carlton, let's say, like or someone like that, they're going to want to develop and stay in MLS. But these young guys like Miguel Almiron, I mean, and when there were the rumors flying around that Pity Martinez was coming, I don't know if he did. You can't have everybody, right? That move was announced. I knew it going. It's a big move for not just Atlanta United, but for the league as a whole. It shows that guys here develop them and send them off to Europe for massive amounts of money. So it's obviously a positive for both Atlanta United and for Major League Soccer.
Yeah, I would think so. I like it a lot. If I'm going to use some analogies for other sports that folks are listening to us, this is a lot like if you're a stepping stone college football program like a Vanderbilt and even our own Georgia Tech. If you're really good at what you do and you have a lot of success, chances are you're going to go to a bigger program. And the same thing in racing. We saw this with I wouldn't say a personal friend, because I don't think it's fair for us to consider him a friend at this point. But we've seen drivers that drive for teams that, struggle to run around in 15th place, but then their driver gets a shot at a really good car and wins races, and that's the stepping stone for them. These things are all sort of congruent in a lot of ways. I think this is good for Atlanta in that they can say, we've got such a good program. We get somebody that Europe wanted. In this case, Newcastle, they're trying to survive.
It is. And I've always said, and I'll always stay true to that. I don't work for Atlanta United, so I don't really have to be, in my opinion, Tata Martino was a big piece in developing these guys. He's a phenomenal coach. He's coached so many phenomenal players in Europe. So it'll be interesting to see how this season goes with a new coach, a new string of players, and how that develops. But it is a massive credit to Darren Eales and Carlos Bocanegra and the program that they developed and the discipline that they've had, and they know exactly what fits, and that's something that's why it's going to be hard to replicate for other teams. It's a great model to follow, and I'm sure every MLS team wishes they could bring in the numbers and have the players that Atlanta United does, but it's those masterminds behind it that are really just bringing all these intricate pieces together to make the team successful. And listen, I'm happy for Miguel Almiron. It's a great thing to play in Europe, and he's obviously not going to have the, I don't want to say obviously because I'm not the coach for Newcastle, but he may not have the playing time and the stuff that he has here in Major League Soccer, because he's going to be he was a big fish in a small pond here, but there's no better place to grow and develop than in a big club, whether it's in England or in Europe. So I think it's awesome.
I'm just going to assume that that Newcastle had such a high from getting the Almiron transfer. That was what propelled them to victory over Manchester City today.
I was reading, and it's like, I know that they were going back and forth. I'm just reading this real quick while we're here. So I guess it's pending a physical and league approval. I'm not sure, but usually that's
not official yet.
Crossing T's and dotting I's at that point.
Yep.
I'll tell you this. It has expanded my interest in international soccer a little bit more. In other words, I'm now a Newcastle fan.
Right, and think about Chelsea too, getting Christian Pulisic from Dortmund out of Germany. I mean, I'm the same way. I'm like, maybe I'm going to start paying attention to the EPL. Like, I was kind of doing it before. I was kind of following Man City, and then the announcement came that we were going to get our own team, and the explosion that has been Atlanta United is like, well, I don't need to care about other leagues because we got our own thing going on right here, and it's pretty good.
Isn't that funny? And I feel like that's the effect, because before it was like the opposite, right, where international soccer fans would like not really maybe not care too much about Major League Soccer, but now they are. It's like people that watch. Think about people that watch international soccer or like watch friendlies, right, for the World Cup. Anybody who is from any country, from any of the guys playing, are now going to be Atlanta United fans, right? Because they're going to want to watch the guys that play for their national team. And now international soccer fans are getting interested in Major League Soccer because Atlanta United's so exciting to watch. And so now you're going to see the world sort of collide a little bit more than they have in the past.
So, on the flip side of this, and this isn't new news or anything, but obviously ATL United getting a new manager as well. And so a couple faces that are big-time changes. Do you see where do you stand on the competitiveness of ATL United next year? With consideration to the, all these big changes going on.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. I think that it's going to be different. I was biased toward Tata Martino. I just thought he was such a phenomenal person, a phenomenal coach. I really enjoyed covering him, and I know that he had a great relationship with him, and we'll have to see how this season brings. You have a lot of different guys. They brought Barco in last season, and he was a lot of money, and he was a big thing, when he came, and he had a couple injuries and different things happened. So it's always exciting in the beginning, when Pity Martinez and all these new guys are coming in. So the next thing we'll see how they play together, right? Because it's when they're all on the pitch. Stats are one thing, numbers, it's all great, but you have to see how the dynamic of the team and chemistry is so very important in any sport. So we'll have to see how these guys play. I think it's just going to be, it's not comparable to the first two seasons because it was a different coach and a different different dynamic. So I think things are going to change, not too drastically, but it'll definitely be a different dynamic to this third season. And I think that no matter what, Atlanta United is going to be successful. I mean, they made it all the way to the playoffs in their very first season, so I don't see them not being successful. But it'll definitely be different, and I think it'll be exciting either way to see with all the changes and a new coach, and to see if he changes the style or if he keeps it the way that it's been, and that'll determine how these guys play and if it's different, if it's not. But either way, any Major League Soccer team doesn't want to face Atlanta United. That's a fact.
No, works out here in a moment. Can you hear us now? Very strange. Well, give us one moment.
All right, guys, y'all give us a second to figure this all out.
Yeah.
I think Rusty was going to rattle off some Spanish there,
right? I mean, come on, we're having.
We still got to do that though. That's part of it. This is in the show sheet. It's got to happen.
Oh man!
So y'all take this opportunity to go take a pee break or grab a new drink or whatever it is you're doing. Right. Get a snack,
refills, and everything.
We're going to keep right on going.
Yeah. Let me do this.
There
why not?
Hey, there she's back. Now, were you able to hear?
I lost you guys.
and we lost you too. It's with the what would I call it, domestic internet connection that I have. Sometimes it goes in and out. So who knows? Did you hear my last question to you after I said I would isolate Sherwin for a moment?
I didn't. All I heard was something about someone trying to speak Spanish.
I said, right. I said, es verdad que puedes hablar español.
You have very good Spanish. Very good.
Well, thank you. So, ¿cómo aprendiste español?
Oh, you want me to talk in Spanish
too?
Go
for it. Yeah, for our Spanish-speaking listeners, I would love to hear it.
Well, I don't know if a lot of people know that. Actually, well, if you follow Atlanta United, then you would know that I am actually Cuban. My mother is Cuban.
Wow.
Yes, so I am 50% Cuban. My dad is not. So I learned Spanish from just honestly going to Miami every Sunday and listening to all my grandparents and their 52 cousins speaking Spanish all day, every day. But I didn't have my mom didn't speak in my house because my dad didn't speak Spanish. So I just picked it up from listening and learning, and actually I really didn't have to use any Spanish until Atlanta United. That's when I kind of had to bring it back, when I had to do some Spanish interviews and interview Tata because he refused to speak English to me.
And we've seen you on TV doing that, is the reason I brought that up. You know what? I do want to bring up one quote, and let's see if you finish it for me. The quote, and I didn't see it until, I think, the final game, but it was, no todos los héroes usan capa. Do you remember the end of that?
Tata said that this season?
Yeah, it was this season. No todos los héroes usan capa.
I don't remember.
Oh, okay, but so the last part of that was pero nuestro sí, and for everybody, it means not all heroes wear a cape, but ours does. And, our manager,
and that's when they ended up doing the tifo, right?
Yeah,
of Tata at the game.
Yeah. So our manager, kind of famous for wrapping his whatever it is that he was wearing, jumper or whatever, around his neck, and so it looked like he's wearing a cape.
His New England look with his sweater wrapped around his shoulders.
Yeah.
So how are we supposed to feel about the fact that he's now the manager of the Mexican national team, our just fist-clenched, hated rival?
I was shocked. I was just... I was sad. I thought it was sort of that like love story that would never end. Like Tata Martino would stay at Atlanta United forever and ever and ever. I was sad when he left, and I think it was personal reasons, and he was away from his family, which I can completely understand. What that's like, but. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm just such a Tata fan that like no matter where he is, I'm gonna just roll with it, but because he's Tata Martino, and we Atlanta has a championship to thank him in that team for. So I think we got to just turn the cheek and in Tata we trust is what I always used to say when I was with them.
Okay. Well, so we've kept you a little while now. We got to breeze through a couple quick things before we let you go. What do you think about them eliminating the home and home aggregate portion of the playoff system?
Yeah, let's talk playoffs.
Love it.
Playoffs.
Love it.
I love it.
Talk to us.
I love it.
You like single elimination as opposed to the aggregate?
100%. I think that I know aggregate and home and away is like a soccer thing, right? It's like traditional in every form of Champions League and every tournament. So, but I like the elimination game because I feel like you have to show up, right? No matter what. And when you have a home and away, there's room for excuses sometimes with teams. And this is not in reference to Atlanta United. This is just in general.
Sure.
So I just like the one game, do or die, this is it. Because if you come into it knowing that you're going to have another game, and let's say you're away, and then you're like, oh, well, if we lose this and they don't score that many goals, then we get to go home and we can score a ton of goals and win. And it's like, well, how about you have the mindset that you go into the game and this is all you have to do, right? This is the do or die match. And I think it's going to put teams, it's going to give them a little bit more pressure, and they're going to come up and show up. And if they don't, they lose. And that's sports. You know what I mean? That's how it is. That's how it's got to be. So I know a lot of fans went crazy on Twitter when they announced that, and they do not like that. And I tweeted out that I loved it, and people didn't like that either. But I like it. I think what's better than an elimination game? Nothing. Like, why should you get a second chance, right? Like, playoff, I think you should get one shot, right?
Well,
Am I wrong?
I think you made a great argument there, especially, fresh in our minds is when Red Bulls had to come here and we straight kicked their ass in that first game. So to have to go back up there and potentially – what if you lose that game 4-0 and then you don't go on?
Yeah. And
exactly.
I think we've talked about it before. This is a good way to bring in new fans and stuff. Even as a fan of ATL United and as a fan of soccer for probably going on 10 years now for me, which, y'all, that's impressive. You want to talk about not being in a soccer family. Brittany, you've at least got like the Cuban background. So it's in your blood. I've got no blood.
A little bit.
The
probably
playoff
got more boxing in her blood.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, that's right.
Fair enough. the playoff system was still something that I didn't quite get, other than, hey, we need to win this. If we just keep winning, then we're fine.
Yeah.
And if we just lose one, we're still fine. But don't lose it by a bunch, you know? And so for me to try to get that, it was like, okay, well, how much or whatever we have to do. Hey, if you're going to do a single elimination playoff system, guess what? We got that in March with March Madness. We've got that
NFL.
in NFL, our biggest sport.
College football.
Yeah. And, you know, in a way, we've got it, you know, in the other sport, NBA and MLB.
NBA, baseball, and NHL, we all have that best of.
But it's at least best of. You know what the deal is, as opposed to like counting number of shots on goal.
Oh, right. You could like
people in the stadium.
Well, just like us, you could lose the second game, but because you scored 3 goals in the first game and they only scored 1 against you and beat you in the second, you still win.
Yeah, I guess
it is kind of weird for Americans to sort that crap out.
Yeah, and what I mean is it's a little bit more accessible for the American viewership, which I think is great. So totally agree there. Brittany,
and a lot of people don't, like you said, they don't understand the aggregate. I had like, what's an aggregate? I don't understand. Like the way goals, like goal, I don't get it. Like if they won 4-1, why didn't they win? You know what I mean? So it's difficult to understand if you're not a deep soccer fan. So yeah, you brought up a great point. For the American audience here, it's perfect. It's perfect.
So we've kept you way longer than we said we would. We very much appreciate you being on. We've had fun. We've had a ton of fun. That's what we try to do on the podcast and everything. Let's talk, since you're in Atlanta, we're in Atlanta. I won't disparage your dad for being a Pats fan. I actually gave a little bit of credit to Tom Brady last week, saying, hey, he's representing the old guys like me, or like people
he's
my
older
age
than
group.
we are.
Yeah, he's older than we are, and I'm no spring chicken. I ain't fixing to go throw you.
I'll be 38 on Saturday.
I'll tell y'all what. If I got sacked one time, I'm not getting up. I quit. That's it. I'm done. So, to the victor go the spoils and all that. We won't disparage for your dad or anything. But tell us about Super Bowl weekend in Atlanta for you and what your plans are.
Oh, my God. I wish I was going to the game. I just don't have a spare $4,000 sitting around that I can use per ticket. Right. But, no, it's so exciting. I think I've heard a lot of people say that they don't really care too much about the Super Bowl. They're not football fans. But it's more of like an atmosphere, right? Like even if you don't like the Patriots or the Rams, it's like, it's cool that it's here in the city. You should go down and see the stadium and see what they have going on, because it's one of those, like, I don't want to say once in a lifetime, but, you know, events like that, you don't know when the next one will come to Atlanta. Maybe now with Mercedes-Benz, you may get it more often. But, yeah, I mean, I'm a little biased. My dad's a Patriots fan, so he's obviously wishing that he was here, you know, experiencing it as well. But I think it's cool. I mean, I lived in South Florida when they had the Super Bowl a couple times in Miami, but I've never been sort of like this close where I'm old enough and I can go to the events and whatever. So I'm going to try to get down there this week and see what they have going on. You know, they have all these events going on next to the stadium, and I think they have like Super Bowl rings on display, and like you can get a football made, like just really neat stuff that you wouldn't really get to have access to unless you were in the Super Bowl city. So I'm going to try to experience a little bit of it, but it's exciting. And listen, it's great for Atlanta. It's going to bring in a ton of, you know, revenue and people and maybe people that have never been to Atlanta before. So I think it's really great for the city, and everybody should at least go down and walk by and see the stadium, because it looks really beautiful and nice, and it'll be an exciting weekend for the city. And go Patriots!
Well, I'll say this. The Mercedes-Benz Stadium is a world-class facility, and bringing it back around to soccer, too. I feel like me and the wife get those club seats once or twice a year, and
Ooh,
those let
baller, big baller.
Well, you heard me, once or twice a year for the soccer game, which, I mean, it's only like $100. I mean, I say only, you know, that's relative to who you are. But it's only like $100, and you get to go down essentially on the field.
I want to do this with you next year.
There's the donor boards that you're just standing there. You're sitting there drinking beer, and they have a bar set up. Like you just set your beer on the bar thing, and then on the other side of the bar is where they're playing soccer. It's unbelievably cool how Mercedes-Benz has it set up, and even if you're not right there, Just the facility, everything is world class there. And I've been to several stadiums. I'm saying this out of objectivity, hopefully, but it's an unbelievable place. And bringing it back to soccer, it's really cool to me that the Atlanta United play there, in that for a very modest price, say under $30 even, you can go experience that stadium. It's unbelievable to me that you get to do that. They're not playing at some rinky-dink place in North Atlanta somewhere that holds maybe 3,000 people. We're in a world-class facility playing this, and if you want to see that world-class facility and have that experience, you can do that for a good price that is not $4,000 to go see the Super Bowl or anything. So really cool to me.
Right.
Well,
and yeah, you're absolutely right. And you don't see that everywhere. And honestly, the only example I can think of off the top of my head is the Patriots and the Revolution, because we did a game I had never been to Gillette Stadium. And when I went during the first season, that was the first thing I noticed is they don't even change the football lines on the field when the Revolution play. Mm-hmm. So you have two professional soccer teams playing on a football field. And when you go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, that's what I always thought was so great about Arthur Blank is he makes it very distinct. It's like when I've been to Falcons games and I'm at a Falcon game. And when you go to Atlanta United, you're at an Atlanta United game. Yep. And you don't feel like it's a soccer team playing at a football stadium. You feel like it's a soccer team playing at their stadium. And that's what's so great about it. It's an experience, like you said, it's inexpensive and it's great for families. And if you haven't gone, you have to go to an Atlanta United match. It's like nothing else you've ever been to. I promise you that.
And I'm not just saying it as a homer, because we just got SunTrust Park, and SunTrust Park is fine for baseball or whatever, but I wouldn't call it a world-class sports facility like I would Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I mean, go to SunTrust Park. It's cool. It's new. It's fun.
I've been to a Falcons game. I've seen Tech play. That's it.
Yeah.
I have not seen United play yet.
It's a whole new deal.
Mercedes-Benz.
Because you probably also haven't seen it sold out then.
It was sold out for Tennessee, Georgia Tech.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. But not everybody was one-sided either.
Yeah,
so
right. It wasn't all the home team. It was kind of split.
So, anyway, 45 minutes in, Brittany, we got to thank you so much for being on.
Of course.
We could do this for another, 4 hours and 45 minutes. But
yeah, we could turn this into Joe Rogan's podcast real quick.
Right? Why don't you close us out? Tell everybody where they can find you. Well, not close us. Hey, everybody keep listening.
Can we do that last topic? Or what
Please do. Go for it.
Yeah.
Let's close you out with this one.
Yeah, I wanted to close out with the crossover so that we, once we let you go, Brittany, we'll get on into the NASCAR stuff. One of the things that's really cool that's been happening is one of the major NASCAR track ownership companies has purchased Nashville Fairgrounds, which is in the same lot as where Nashville is intending to build their soccer stadium. And then the word is that they're in sort of cahoots together to make sure that they don't step on each other's toes. And I think that's really cool. And I'm not really asking you a question. It's neat to see NASCAR and soccer collide that close together to each other.
That's really interesting. I've never been to a NASCAR race. I've never been to, I don't think, any racing event. That's sad, right?
No, it's not, but you should consider it. You should consider it because it's very interesting.
And we can make it happen.
I'm from Florida, and I've never even been to the Daytona 500, like nothing. I've never been. Yeah, I probably should go to a race.
Just once, just to see it. It's pretty neat. You can't respect what's happening with the cars, how fast and how loud they are on television. I'll say that. The only way to experience it right, is to be there in person.
Well, that's it. That's what I'm going to have to do.
Well, there it is. Brittany, why don't you tell the folks where they can find you and what you're up to next, and we'll get you out of here, and we very much appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I can come on anytime. And, yeah, you can find me on social media. Brittany M. Arnold is my Twitter and Instagram handles. And yeah, I'll be around. I'm sure I'll be talking Atlanta United at some point and in some form this upcoming season. And yeah, I'm in Atlanta. I'm around, and just stay tuned for what is to come next. And I'll let you know when I go to my first NASCAR race. Try to get that in the books this season.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Thank you, Brittany.
Let us help you get there too.
True.
Yes, let me know. I'm around.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Take care. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
All right.
There it is, Sherwin.
Wow.
That was a load of fun. I don't know if anyone else finds it as fun or whatever else.
Yeah, we might lose our entire audience, but I hope not. I think they understand that.
Listen, y'all, if you have to talk NASCAR for this long, every once in a while, you just sort of run out of stuff to talk about. And that's not to disparage or anything else, but it's really refreshing to be able to talk something that we enjoy and love with somebody who knows way more than we do about the whole deal and is way closer in.
Yeah, for sure.
Sherwin, I think...
And we still have some significant NASCAR stuff to talk about.
I think...
if anybody has stuck around.
We should do sort of a lightning round with NASCAR and go straight into the report card and tear this thing down. What do you think?
It sounds good to me.
All right. Talk as fast as you can. Tell us everything you got to say. First period, ESPN hires both Bob Pockrass and Ricky Craven. Not ESPN, sorry. Fox hires Bob Pockrass and Ricky Craven after ESPN dropped them. And J-Ski was also dropped by ESPN. Tell us what's going on with ESPN and motorsports.
Well, 2 middle fingers up to ESPN, and well done, Fox, for snatching up the available talent that is invaluable to this sport.
I would say that ESPN is doing the exact opposite of what NBC is doing. ESPN is divesting everything they can from NASCAR and motorsports in general. NBC is saying, hey, we're motorsports. Our sports is mainly motorsports, and we do these other things too every once in a while.
Right. It's hockey and it's motorsports.
Yeah. And so great pickup by Fox Sports with Bob and Ricky Craven. And maybe they will be, Sherwin, released from the ESPN stranglehold on being on guest spots on podcasts?
So that there's been some chatter about that. I might reach out to old Bobby. Maybe I'll wait till we get to Atlanta and see what he says in person.
Yeah. J-Ski being dropped has been like it has been a lament of the entire NASCAR community. Like prominent drivers, prominent journalists, prominent NASCAR like brass. Everybody is saying, "Whoa, what the hell?" And so
it's such a good information source for everything.
I feel like Jay and company can just recreate this as, I don't know, skij.com instead of J-Ski. And
start a Patreon, dude. I'll give you some money.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Get a Patreon deal coming. Holy mackerel. So, totally in for that. Second period. Jordan Anderson signing a technical alliance agreement with Gallagher Motorsports GMS. What do you think, Sherwin?
I think that's a fantastic move. I don't know what it's costing him, but it's certainly going to lead to performance.
GMS has gotten both my inquisitive mind lately and my thumb. Like, there was kind of the thumbs down and thumbs up, right?
Yeah, the Johnny Sauter deal.
The Johnny Sauter deal was like
what the hell are y'all doing?
What are y'all doing? And then the this Jordan Anderson thing is like, all right, cool. Well,
and it was like with 3 other companies too. So like they're spreading their whatever you want to call it around.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. I like it.
I don't know if they're sharing suspension, or if they're sharing drivetrain, or whatever they're doing. But I think this is a good move for Jordan. It's a signal that he's committed to racing and performance.
I think what's also cool here is that how would I say it? We talked about this. By the way, everybody, we were just on the Lap Traffic podcast with the fellows from MOATF and with Brandon.
Just 3 hours ago.
Yeah, 3 hours ago. 5 of us on there just BSing, blowing smoke, as BS stands for, of course. And that was one of the things that was brought up. And one of the big discussions, or among the many discussions, was what these big teams are doing, backing out of the lower series, backing out of trucks, backing out of
Xfinity, Roush,
especially
and Ganassi exiting the Xfinity series.
Right, and we've talked about it here. But interesting to see the different investments that other people are making. We talked about B.J. McLeod's team going to have 3 cars in the Xfinity series. Holy crap, that's cool.
Yeah, that is neat.
And this one right here with GMS signing a like you said, technical alliance with Jordan Anderson. That's very cool. So I'm very interested to see these, and it comes at the expense of some people that we really like. So I'm on both sides of the fence here. I can talk either side.
Right.
But these smaller teams being able to do something in these lower series, I shouldn't even say lower series, in the second series, whatever it is.
The development series.
Yeah. And the way that it should be done. So I'm very interested.
Yeah, I mean, we can round that statement up by saying what Will always said, and what everybody that watches all 3 series says is the truck series is the best racing there is in NASCAR.
So when we were on with Brittany, and she said she needed to go to a race, who was it that said it? I want to see here. Hold on. Somebody, Sarah Anbari, said, y'all take her to trucks. Like that's
hell
everybody
yes.
knows. Everybody knows.
Yeah, everybody knows.
Oh, if you want to be a NASCAR fan, take her to trucks.
The best? Okay, so you know what the best ticket in NASCAR is today?
Tell me.
Is Saturday at Atlanta Motor Speedway. You get to see the Xfinity race. You get to see the trucks race. And now you get to see an Invitational Legends race.
Oh, my God.
With guys like David Reagan are going to race in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we're going to race against guys like PTM Posse, Jensen Jorgensen.
I was about to say, is Jensen going to be
I don't know yet for sure that he's racing. I would be shocked if he wasn't.
Yeah.
Especially after coming off a win last week.
Woo! Yes. Third period showing Fernando Alonso and Rodney Sandstorm himself, with the little help from that other guy.
Those other 2 guys
win the prototype division at the Rolex 24. You wrote on here, what's next for Fernando? He's publicly stated he's going to do something unprecedented and unannounced.
Yeah, so in my mind, I kind of threw a feeler out there just to see what how the public would react to it. I said, I want to see him in the Junior Motorsports number 8 at Elkhart Lake. Mm-hmm. Just because I know they haven't signed a driver for that race yet, and that's a championship caliber car, and I'd like to see him in a really good car run that race. Mm-hmm. And somebody else said, well, I don't know if an Xfinity Series race is really how you make a splash. And I'm like, it is if you win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why did he run that race for 10 years? Why did Jacques Villeneuve run that race for 10 years?
Jacques Villeneuve. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that.
Because there's no championship caliber or race winning caliber Cup car that he could get in. Yeah. That's my point is, and I don't know what Jamie McMurray's going to do in that 40, and I'm sure Chip is building that car for Spire Motorsports, but I mean that's just a different animal. Like Fernando's not plate racing isn't for him. Mm-hmm. That's not where you try to do that.
Do you think Jordan Taylor has a NASCAR? I don't know. Opportunity ahead of him.
I would love to see him do it because he's such a fantastic personality, and he can obviously drive the absolute hell out of a race car. You don't get to be on one of these teams and suck. And his dad owns the team. If he sucked, his dad wouldn't let him drive that car.
If he sucked, he wouldn't be able to pull off Rodney Sandstorm.
Right. You got to have a certain amount of charisma and
swagger.
Ability and swagger. Exactly. Yeah. Swagger. That's the right word. Swagger.
Let's go to fourth period. Eddie Greer III, EG3 _ Fast Eddie says, what was your favorite moment from the championship run from last season? That's Eddie. I don't know how I can't say that the Martinsville Logano thing. I mean, that was whether that's my. It's hard to answer that in terms of that was my favorite thing. In terms It's
well,
not
my
that
favorite
I'm a fan
thing
of
was
that,
Joey winning at Homestead, but I'm with you on wherever you're headed down with this vein.
Yeah, it's not that I'm a big Joey fan or whatever, but that was the biggest thing to happen. And if you didn't respect, maybe you didn't like it.
You either liked it or you hated it. And
yeah,
that's good for NASCAR.
and both of those are perfect. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So the Martinsville thing, I think you're onto something though too, with the fact that to win Homestead, just to make let's dot the I, let's cross the T, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Then that shows it. So.
Well, and it puts a lid on that whole sliced bread thing, right? He's now won a championship.
Yeah.
We can Mark Martin, kudos to you, brother. Good scouting. You figured it out. He's good.
Y'all roll back to like PETM 2 or 3 where we were talking about Joey last place or whatever we were calling him at that point.
We always called him Joey last place.
Yeah, just for but it was a term of endearment.
It was. And now it's even better. Like, it's even a better nickname now.
Right. Yeah,
Joey last place just won the Cup championship.
I love it. Fifth period, Matt Weaver. I was reading back on Weaver's stuff that he's got going on. A couple things. One, interesting. Well, this isn't interesting at all. NASCAR bans drivers and teams from betting on races. Duh.
I mean,
this is not disparaging.
Every
Weaver.
other sport has made these same rules.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting, though, that rule didn't exist already. Like, you can bet on races in Vegas.
Well, that's what I thought. So I said, somebody commented on Twitter, and I kind of commented over the top and said, you've been able to bet winner and props at the window in a sports book forever.
Yeah, hell, we did it 4 years ago or however.
But it was the problem was the context I was missing was competitors or people that have some sort of relationship with a team that would help them make a decision to bet against their team, I guess, maybe.
Yeah. Is there yeah. Because I was trying to think, like, in baseball, you can bet against your team and then make them lose as either a manager or a pitcher or, somebody who has a lot of control.
Well, I mean...
but how do you bet you can't really bet. You can only bet for somebody in NASCAR. You know what I mean?
That's what I thought.
So I
thought you could only bet for somebody to win, or then whatever I'm sure there's a whole book of prop bets, or like take the field versus somebody.
Yeah,
one of those kind of things.
So how do you? I don't know how you
Pete,
can.
I mean, Pete Rose has still got a problem with baseball, and he said he never bet against the Reds. He only bet for them to win.
Yeah.
Like, what's the problem?
I think that should be not only allowed, but also the regulation should be you have to make that bet public. So that it's like Pete Rose is like, I'm betting $1 million on my team tonight.
We're gonna win.
Like, that's awesome. That's American right there.
Or I mean, I'm betting $100 on I'm gonna get a stolen base today.
Yeah.
That certainly ain't gonna hurt your team.
Well, now the funny part is that kind of affects not the outcome, but the play of it. Every time he's on base, he's going to try to steal. Now,
yeah, but you're in the pitcher's head. Like, you got sports psychology going on now.
Oh, that's the funniest thing I've heard in a long time. That is awesome. Weaver also announcing or reporting that every ARCA race will be aired live this season. That is very cool.
That is so cool because of how many tracks they go to that NASCAR doesn't go to. Mm-hmm. This is huge for race fans to get to see these tracks that normally, like, they air them, usually they used to air them like a week and a half later on tape delay.
Yeah.
This is really awesome. This is what's going to – so this is how NASCAR is impacting having purchased the series that is ARCA. This is how they're creating that space where we pay attention to a fourth series every week is by doing this.
Yep.
And I would expect going forward that K&N East and ARCA would become the same thing. Like that we wouldn't have a K&N East. It would just be ARCA or it would just be K&N East.
Yeah.
And I think we need to maintain ARCA. It's such a special brand name. So I hope that if they choose to merge them, or just don't even – you don't even have to merge a series. Just making sure the rules are all the same.
Dude, IMSA, Supercross, ARCA, You get to watch all of it. This
all
year.
of it on NBC Sports, y'all.
Yeah.
I think ARCA is kicking some almighty ass right now.
Let's give them some credit. Fox was a lot of the ARCA deal.
Do you see Fox? Yes, you're right. Fox owned Speed before they separated, so they need credit for that. You're right, because they were the horsepower behind Speed. But we're all winning right now.
Mm-hmm.
The way Fox is hiring talent, the way NBC is doubling down on all motorsports, we're all winning. Just one flag up the ladder there. Or up the pole, I should say, not the ladder. Flags don't climb ladders, as it turns out.
I'll hang a flag from the ladder.
Courtney Force retired from running funny cars. I think that means her and Graham Rahal are going to stop practicing and start putting into place.
Start having a family.
Yeah.
And
going to stop practicing having children and going to start having children.
I'm still in practice mode, man. Practice is a lot of fun.
As it turns out.
All right,
there are a few things that are fun to practice.
Right? New follower shout out. I'm going to go to the second one, Sherwin. I want you to do the first one. NAF at NASCAR Angry Fan. He's Braves, bourbon, NASCAR, golf, and barbecue. Is he me?
Yeah, he claims to be a pit master, so we need to barbecue with this man.
Yes. I mean,
not as a challenge, as desire to maybe learn something.
Right. And talk Braves and bourbon and NASCAR and golf. Things
those are all the things.
Holy moly! So thank you, NASCAR Angry Fan, for following Sherwin.
All right, so the next one kind of shocked me a little bit. Some of you who have been following NASCAR for at least since around 1998 would know the name Shauna Robinson, one of the few females to run a full NASCAR season other than Danica Patrick since all the way back, and I forget her name, and I'm sorry. But anyway, she's running a business now called Happy Chair.
Yeah.
But she's been a NASCAR Cup racer. And she's following us, and we're following her, and that's pretty damn cool.
You can find her on Twitter at HappyChairSR for Happy Chair Shauna Robinson. I'm looking at what Happy Chair is. I gotta look deeper than just the top side there.
Okay,
but cool. Happy Chair.
Happy Chair.
Enjoy yourselves a Happy Chair. So with that, Sherwin, it's time to start closing this thing down. This was a very different type of episode from us. Maybe we should start a Atlanta United podcast too, just on the side or something.
Why not? Sounds like Brittany's up for it.
No kidding, right? That was a bunch of fun.
Once a month or something, maybe. Something like that.
We want to thank Brittany for joining us. We want to thank y'all if you've stuck around this far and hung out and everything. And we're just sitting there talking about a single Atlanta sports team that is not one of the big 3 or 4 sports in the U.S. For a while. But
it's probably 6th, right? It's probably behind NASCAR still.
If we're being honest. But I've had a blast, Sherman. That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. I thought that it was more fun than I thought it would be, and I knew it was going to be fun.
So with that, y'all, we'll catch you later. You know where to find us at PTM Podcast on Twitter, ptmpodcast.com. As always, I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace at Tailgate Mayor.
And I'm Andrew Sherwin at Pregame Engineer on the Twitter and at Andrew L. Sherwin on the Instagram.
We'll catch y'all next week.
Cheers, dude.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the podcast.
We're still on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. I hope y'all had as much
fun. That was a bomb-ass time. I mean, I'm using some kind of 1987 lingo.
Some bomb-ass time.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Man. That was fun, man.
I enjoyed the crap out of that. Let's see. I want to there's one little thing I want to do at the very beginning, and it's called... Is it Amplify? No, it's not amplify. Effect.
Thank you all very much, everybody that stuck around.
Fade in. That's what I want.
We appreciate it.
I'm going to make sure this sounded...
Appreciate you indulging our desire to talk about things that we like that we don't necessarily know if y'all like.
Yeah. What can you say? Every once in a while, you have to do something a little bit different if you're going to try to do the entire 8 weeks or whatever it is of off season.
Well, we got to remind everybody that this is a hobby, and we're here to entertain ourselves as much as we are to entertain anybody else.
I hope y'all are as entertained as we are. But either way, it's been awesome, and PTM Posse is the best. There's no doubt about that. So, with that, we're going to close this thing down. Thank you for joining. We'll catch y'all next week.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Go Tennessee Waterfalls. Woo! And go Rams.
We might have Todd Bodine next week, by the way.
Oh, crap. Okay. Well, hell. The Onion. Let's do it. See y'all.
That's what we're working on.